Hey there, folks. Adam Davis with Adam Davis Real Estate. I haven't checked in a while, and I just wanted to say hi and talk about this settlement that's unfolding right now. And as we're kind of processing it and learning about it as an industry, what I think it means for everybody and what it means for you, buyer and seller. So in a nutshell, the settlement states that no offers of compensation will be permitted within the MLS listings of sellers' houses. So a seller cannot offer a commission to a buyer agent. And the reason for that, as I've discussed before, is that commissions are supposed to be negotiable, but some agencies in some regions have been accused of essentially price fixing, antitrust violation, so spooky, scary stuff. But in reality, commissions have always been negotiable. And in fact, I think I've negotiated, like literally adjusted 100% of my commissions. Not only my commissions, but the commissions that we would offer to a buyer. So as far as I'm concerned, commissions have always been kind of variable and depending on whatever the circumstances need. I've never been like, this is the commission and you must do that or else you're not going to get to work with me. And every need is different. Every case is different. So I just tailor it to fit rather than try to get my way. But now commissions are not able to be offered from the seller to the buyer. So that means that a buyer's agent can't target specific properties and preferentially based on an offer of compensation. And something that's interesting is that you can still say in the listing description, in the private remarks or the public remarks, something along the lines of buyer's agency compensation will be considered or something like that, something to indicate that a seller would be willing to pay a buyer's agent. So it's not going to create an environment where buyer's agents aren't getting paid specifically, but now it's reminding sellers that they don't have to pay buyer's agency commissions, which has always been the case. So the fact that this was a lawsuit is kind of absurd to me, and the sellers who brought it as a result of their property not selling well enough or fast enough or for high enough of a price is kind of hilarious to me, because they hold all the cards anyway, sellers do, because they have the property that somebody wants, and if they price it remotely correctly, they're going to get it sold. So these are basically petty, bitter, whiny sellers who didn't get the money that they wanted to get out of it as a result of how they planned their commissions. I don't know the specifics of the cases that were used to win this lawsuit or create the settlement arrangement, but it sounds like they offered little to no commission and are now mad because buyers didn't look at their property. That's what it boils down to. So a buyer agent can create what is called an agency compensation agreement with their buyers prior to looking at properties. So in other words, before you could look at properties and assume that there was going to be a compensation in place for the buyer's agent. Now you cannot assume that. So the buyer wants to pre-commit to paying their agent a commission from the buyer's side of the closing costs. And interestingly, now you have to, if you're going to do this, you're going to say, just an example, I'm not saying this is the way it's going to be, this is not a fixed cost or anything like that, but there's going to be something like, a buyer's agent might say, agree with the buyer to pay 2.75% or 2.5% or 2.2% or something like that. And if the property they purchase is different than that, the buyer's agency compensation agreement supersedes it. It wins. It's the most accurate and current compensation for the buyer's agent. So it's going to be interesting because there are two options. One is to compensate the buyer's agent based on whatever the agreement is, or to compensate the buyer's agent based on the compensation from the sale, and then make up the difference for the buyer personally to make up the difference. So if it's like the listing compensation is 2.2 and the buyer's agency compensation agreement is 2.5, the buyer has to pay the remaining 0.3%. Okay, I think we're on the same page now. And if the buyer's agency compensation agreement says 2.5 and the listing agreement to compensate that they've already agreed to, not advertised in the MLS, but agreed to, is 2.75, and the buyer's agent misses the remaining 0.25%. So it's tough. It forces a situation where I think that, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we see buyer's side commissions going up in the listing side, in the seller compensation, what they're willing to pay the buyer's agent, but they have to be more careful about how they disclose the compensation. They can't say buyer's agent will get 2.75%. They'll say buyer's agent commission is available or something like that. And so buyer's agents who prior to showing properties want to make sure they get paid their 2.5% or whatever are going to have to kind of bet or guess against the marketplace and what the going rate might be. There isn't a going rate, again, but what might be the fair compensation for someone in their position, and then they're going to get undercut and then undercut and then undercut by people who don't care about that remaining 0.25% or the 0.5% or whatever the case may end up being. And so it's going to be weird because buyers' agents now have to agree to compensation with the buyer prior to doing anything that could be construed as agency work in order to get paid. You can show a house, you can, discuss the market and pricing and things like that, how you might want to write your offer. But before writing your offer, you have to have an agreement that says the buyer, through negotiation, through the seller's side, or through their own cash or financing, will pay the buyer's agent X. So it's going to be a challenge. The buyers are going to be on the hook if they can't get it done in the negotiation. If they really want this house, I think one of the things that might end up happening is it might become a contingency where if the buyer's unable to pay their buyer's agent commission, you might fall out of contract. Refundable earnest money, all that stuff. But it might happen, especially in cases with like little to no money down, FHA, 3.5% down, or VA 0, nothing down, and no concessions from the buyer for the loan. We'll see. But in a nutshell, I just wanted to kind of update you because it's really going to change. It doesn't change sort of like the fundamentals of the business. Buyers and sellers, agents will still get paid. Buyers and sellers will still be able to buy and sell property, and there will still be an active marketplace. But the way that marketplace is run will be a little bit different. And it will start with negotiations between the individuals and their agents first, as it always has with sellers. But on the buyers, you kind of just like, Zillow, like you fill out the dumb little form and a billion people call you, and finally someone's like, okay, fine, I'll go look at this house with you, and suddenly they're your agent and you don't owe them. It comes out of the purchase price, so you are paying them through the finance price of the home, but they're your agent all of a sudden, and they now expect to get whatever the commission was in the MLS for the property that you liked the most. Now, Zillow agents are your people are still going to get all those phone calls, but now every single agent is going to be like, how much are you going to pay me if we get this under contract? And that's the first conversation to be had. So it's for agents, for people like myself, A, happy to be on the listing side, thank the Lord. B, got to build that rapport. You got to build relationships, you got to build friendships, you got to be of upstanding and strong character and moral fiber and ethic that is going to really come through. And if you can't convey that right away, you're going to really struggle to get paid in this new landscape. So I think it's going to be fine. It's going to be fun. It's going to be weird. It might be a little crazy. I think we're going to see some agents kind of lose some of the agents I have worked with in the past who are a little bit less careful with the details are going to start falling away. But that's a good thing, honestly. But Adam Davis, with Adam Davis Real Estate, it's bath time. So